And we're live. War live. We are live. We're live. War isn't live. We're live. That's what it is. It's not that we're at war. We're just at war. Is it a cold war? Is it actually cold now that midsummer was just yesterday? Is it an ironic timing that a war front was launched on the summer solstice? Does that line up with anything? Do these things matter? Do the button pushers care? Do you care? Hello, everybody. We at war or something. And I got some thoughts. And generally, I'd wait and kind of sit back and kind of just let things simmer and mesmerize and marinate for a little bit before I pontificate. But there's just a couple things out the gate that I think people, listen, I don't know what people or anything. I just know we're dealing with a very strange sequence of events. And I had a couple recent phone calls and conversations that kind of clued me into I wouldn't say clued me in, I would say confirmed what I already had hunches of, but just had no confirmation of, regarding the true motives behind the moves we're seeing in the public space. And I've said this on almost every time I've ever gone live. What y'all see is happening in the foreground on TV ain't what's happening in the background. I don't know how I can say it any simpler. I'm not trying to yell at y'all. Hello, everybody. I'm not mad, really. I'm not angry. I'm just, I'm confused. It's like this is my internal, springboard of my thoughts that I'm blabbing out on this live stream. And I want to go over my, thought processes just with a couple of the headlines I've seen, because what it seems like is happening is lines are being drawn for people to choose essentially one of two positions on the issue, pro or anti. It's very binary. Okay, so we're about to do a lot of defining of terms in today's discussion. We're going to get into what Semitism actually is, who Shem was that makes anything Semitic or anything that opposes things that are Semitic, anti-Semitic. We're about to get into it all. But this is not meant to be slanderous or scandalous or salacious. This is meant to be informative, slightly, maybe a little silly enough to de-steamify, depressurize, pop a little bit of the steam out of the conversation that's so heated around what's happening in Iran and in Israel right now. So the first thing I have to say out the gate is that my heart is always with the people. My heart is with the people. I have no ill will toward any man, woman, or child in any government or civilian population or military. What we're dealing with is a series of lies, withholdings, deceptions that have a lot of duped and gullible people doing bad things, have also a lot of unwittingly good, otherwise good people doing bad things, and a whole lot of confused people in between. Okay, so maybe you're one of them confused people. I'm hoping that this discussion today helps deconfusify you. Welcome to everyone. Let's get into it. So, war. What has history shown us about war? So, in law, they have what are called maxims of law, M-A-X-I-M. And a maxim of law is such that it's not necessarily a law or a rule. It's simply a maxim. It's saying that when you tally up these other 1,000 court cases and laws and rules and statutes and codes, what they translate are these principles, these maxims. This is a maxim. A clear example of in commerce, if a claim goes unchallenged, it stands as true. Simple example of a maxim in law. A maxim in life and in war is he who wins the war controls the narrative. Okay? He who wins the war controls the narrative. I see you. What's up, Johnny? Oh, we about to talk about it. Oh, man, y'all see Sync 1 that's just joined. I'm about to spill some beans and rice. So, he who wins in war writes the history. His story is literally the perspective of that. Now, a lot of people on my channel are here because they have crossed the hurdle and realized the difficult reality that we were misled about our health, our life, our government, and the systems of this world. I think a lot of people. You're very welcome, by the way, Charlie. She said, or he said, I appreciate the time on this one. Works well across the pond. I appreciate it. This is the thing. Across the pond, all my Brits and European friends and even Aussies and Kiwis, this factors in to you guys too, because what I have come to learn is that y'all's government is my government. It's the same thing. We're all under a corporate British managed maritime structure. All of us, every one of the Western nations. And that corporate British management is actually being funded and overseen. It's almost like the boards of directors for that management corporation are all under the hexagram. Now, I'm going to use the term the hexagram for a couple reasons, because I want to be a bit unique in how I'm describing what I'm talking about without triggering censors. That's just the day we're living in. I also want to be a bit anti-inflammatory regarding people whose culture associates and or is bloodline affiliated with the nation that supports this hexagram on their flag. Because my aim is to be very clear and talk to y'all like adults, right? And be very, very clear in distinguishing. I got no hatred for you as an individual. What I'm over here talking about is the actions of a government's nation state when you look into the details of which don't actually connect to y'all individuals, both literally and ideologically and theologically and morally. I mean, we could probably keep that list going for another 100 bullet points. The same applies to my nation state, okay? I am an American. My skin is this color, so therefore I'm considered black, even though my beard is darker than my skin, and my beard is not technically black. It's like super dark brown, and my skin is not technically black. It's just binary. You gotta be white or black. You can be indigenous, but we're not gonna call it nothing. We're just gonna call it Crayola black, okay? This is all part of a bigger conversation that really is one of the foundational, cinder blocks or building blocks behind the battle that's playing out today. And the reason I think it's been able to go on this long is because of how confused people are about the truth. Why? Because the liars, the winners, told a lie. That's how it always happens. Okay? The winners told a lie. The winners told a lie, y'all. Hello. Okay, now that we're past lesson 1, okay, we can go on to lesson 2. Since they lied, a tremendous amount of unpacking and reframing I had to go through, or I should say, a tremendous amount of unpacking and reframing had to happen for me with the work of people who have been studying this much longer than myself, for me to kind of like emotionally decouple my thoughts and my beliefs from the reality of what was in front of me with evidence and historical documentation, just not put forth in the mainstream. So history has shown us that war is always about shuffling people around, merging cultures by like raping all the women and killing off all the men, and then like starting these new civilizations with like mixed culture concepts that both dilute the nationality of whoever we're talking about, and that help ideologically smooth in the new incoming power. Okay, that's the name of the game in both medieval times, Bible times, first dynasty, Egypt times, second, all of time, including right now. Okay, right now. So it shouldn't surprise you that I'm trying to illustrate what's happening using very few of the talking points of today's common Republican or Democratic media. I do not think that this war has anything whatsoever to do with nukes. I mean, in so much as nukes are the cover story, but other than being the significantly overplayed at this point cover story, I don't think it has anything to do with nukes. I also don't think it has anything to do with oil or anything else. It has to do with who controls the momentum of the bigger picture moving forward. And that might seem like hard to grasp in the acute sense, but I want you to just take a second and go to every single war, and not just the biggest ones. I'm talking the squibbles and squabbles from like Vietnam to Kosovo to Kuwait to, Gaddafi situation, all these things. Oh, he's such a terrorist, said Hillary. Now we were older, right? We believe that because we didn't know any better. And this is just within my 40 years of being alive. So I'm going back at least 100 years. And beyond that 100 years, I'm looking at patterns that ultimately take me to this zone that when you go back pushing 200 years, it gets real head scratchy as to what's what and what wasn't part of a remixed timeline narrative, revamped his story because of being the winners of spoils of war. Yes, they built a narrative that connects. Hello, people in my industry do it all the time. It's called screenwriting. They have professionals that do that actually plug plot holes ahead of time so that stories make sense that are completely fabricated. Now they could just do it with AI. So, what I want to talk to y'all about is what's happening here. So, the reason when I started talking about my thoughts regarding COVID, I kept running into a lot of people saying, well, you're not a doctor. Okay, so you're not really qualified to speak on the matter. Let me see your credentials. What do you do? Oh, I'm a video editor, director, producer. I work in the entertainment industry, and not the adult entertainment industry, just the standard entertainment industry. And I have worked in and around some of the very people y'all are having conversations about. I'm not in their industry, but I am adjacent, right? And I have like literally stood like next to them, some of them. And I've, been made aware that the conversation is splintered, meaning the cameras are showing you such a narrow focus, right? I'm gonna give y'all a great example. This is my studio. Right now, if you're looking on Instagram, all you're seeing is this cleverly lit, beautifully set, green background environment that I'm actually using for this much bigger project that I'm working on. I'm sitting on my drum throne right here because I'm working on this huge, maybe you've heard me talk of it, biopsy of a psyop. See, we'll talk about more of that. Talk more about that later. But my point is, this is the frame. This is the lens. This is what the industry allows you to see. Now, I didn't put a filter on this, but if I wanted to, y'all will be seeing me straight up through a filter. However, if I take, I don't know, a millimeter of an angle and I change it, now you're starting to see the actual guts of how not actually that pretty this whole setup really is. It's literally me deconstructing my studio to rebuild this sound light curtain thingy mabobber with all kinds of wires tucked and things running to make things sound like y'all don't even know how. But this is what professionals in the industry do. They make things just look so. And right when the light's popping and the skin's glowing, I got the nice little highlight off the shoulder with the backlighting. This is actually what professionals do. So I did that little tangential example to show you guys. You are only shown what we want to show you. Okay? You only gonna be shown what they want you to see. And it's clearly the nicest lit, prettiest, sexiest angles with the best balanced audio, all the beautiful sounds and filters. There's like 50 different machines the sound is running through just to get to what y'all listening to. You can't even see this. Like, I'm gonna flip the camera around because I'm trying to intend to make this a little raw. You see that back there? It's recording. It's got all these wires and lights and things blipping and blopping back there. Why? Because the point is to present something that's quality that actually holds its own in a sea of otherwise well-produced and well-funded propaganda. Now, I'm in a unique situation in that it's my occupation to create what I later in my career learned was basically propaganda. And I have my own, mourning season, so to speak, and my own come to Jesus meeting, so to speak, about what that meant for my life's purpose and all this. But my point is, I only show you what I want you to see. And there are 50 different things happening around the scenes that are yielding the results that you're seeing right here, right now, that most of you, unless you're also professionals in this industry, have no clue is possible. So if I'm telling you, I'm talking to you honestly and I'm telling you the truth, but just off camera as a teleprompter where I'm reading, then I'm honestly mispresenting myself if I'm pretending like I'm speaking off the cuff, but I actually have a teleprompter. Now, I don't. I have a few notes for an outline. No teleprompter. This is actually off the cuff. But the point here is I only show you what I want you to see. That is the most basic level of core function of this industry. So if you are seeing the president make a war announcement from a tweet that's not even on Twitter, it's on his own personal social media platform, we would call, if Kim Jong-un or Kim Il-sung did that, that would be North Korean dictatorial nonsense. But when Donald Trump does it, it's patriotism. It's different because it's Trump. And just because you aren't aware of what the symbols that they're showing you actually mean, you confuse a actor in a bigger conversation making moves that are above his pay grade with either this crazy megalomaniac psychopathic idiot who shouldn't even be president. How could a buffoon such as him ever make it to the presidency twice? Or this is a man of God that we must stand behind. Obviously, God's protection is on him because look, they've tried to, kind of kill him once or I think twice, right? We forgot about the second time, but they've tried. But God protected him because even though a giant bullet of that caliber whizzes past your ear large enough to graze it, the sonic boom doesn't leave any sort of bruise or anything. That's not what happens here. God just miraculously heals you within 24 hours. 36 hours, unless you buy my Trump pillow. But 2 weeks later, God's worked. Okay, so I'm giving you these examples because I'm trying not to mock Donald Trump. I don't have any ill will or bad blood or bad feelings toward Donald Trump because that's like saying, are you Dyson versus Kirby? Which is the better vacuum cleaner? Oh, you team Dyson. Wow, motherfucking hate the Kirbys. Dyson's the man. I'm not calling Trump a vacuum cleaner, but I'm saying he has about as much power in my life as I give a vacuum cleaner. Choosing to understand that he doesn't sit in the position that y'all think. Now, I know I'm kind of going like, wait, I was with you and then you lost me. Okay, here we go with the fishing reel. I'm trying to reel you back in because the point here is to illustrate the media is I was talking to my wife earlier and I said, babe, I think I'm gonna go and talk live about some of the stuff in the war. I've just been seeing some stuff online. It's kind of just, I'm pretty sure the national conversation is headed in this way and I don't think it's that. And she's like, okay, go ahead, you should do it. And in order for me to actually do this, I had to set some cameras up, turn my computer on, flip some switches, meaning there is no inorganic, accidental conversation that spills out on TV. Since when did we get to the place in life where we bomb somebody and then go on Twitter and say we did it? Sorry, not Twitter, Truth Social, my own social media channel so that nobody can tell me I can't say what I want to say. Because the president of the United States was actually canceled off of Twitter back in 2020. Y'all remember that? Like, never mind that was ridiculous. We just on ridiculous 3.0 at this point. So here we are. I'm now tweeting. There's no official, the official press release comes later in the day, right? We couldn't just wait to tweet. We had to release the fact that Nobody voted, no congressional approval, no checks and balances, no protocol, nothing about the way that we were all taught the government's supposed to work actually has worked or is seeming to work that way. And we just supposed to just argue about whether we should or shouldn't, not the pause the tape, where are the adults in the room conversation? How is this even possible? Don't talk to me about Twitter posts and Truth Social posts. What is this? I'll tell you what this is. This is TV, y'all. It's not The Apprentice anymore. It's The Master Mason this season. Okay, it's TV. That's what it is. I'm sitting there like, why is Netanyahu on screen? Like, keep in mind, you can think anything. You don't gotta hop. I don't have to cut this camera on and say nothing to you. I can think all this in my head. No lights, no green screen, none of that. I can just think it. I could be on the toilet and think it and not have to open my Truth Social and type it. At what point are we going to broach the realization that we are now past the point of no return? We have a Zelensky. Like, people in the truth movement mocked the concept that a head of state of Ukraine who never ever wore a suit ever, literally always wore like army camo G.I. Joe green outfit, period, and received, Oscars from Sean Penn and Jessica Chastain about his bravery during this crazy time in the middle of a war zone that I voluntarily flew into because of all the people to talk to in war. I'm gonna talk to the president because that's the safest. Because I just gotta give him my Oscar right now. It's not an act. I just gotta give him an Oscar. It's just an Oscar. It's not acting, y'all. Y'all be conspiracy theorists. You see? I'm trying to say like, they gave this dude an Oscar. They might as well, they gonna give Trump an Oscar at some point, you can bet. But they have given him clandestinely a whole lot more important things than an Oscar. So the point of why I'm waxing a little nuance on this is because I'm trying to just boom, shake you enough to say, okay, so your president that you think you voted for, I'm here to tell you didn't, so let the shock hit you later, but you think you voted for this guy. He just did something outside of your approval and told you about it on a social media platform that he invented. And y'all are just going, we're not going to check that. We're not going to just back it on up like Juvenile. We're just going to roll with those punches, right? No. This is why nothing works. Because this TV show is starting to get what are called plot holes. If anybody ever saw the show, probably like 20 years ago now, the ABC show Lost. It was a running gag that this show, they just kept going, because the network really liked season 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.5, 8.5 of Lost. The writers were like, we've written ourselves into all these plot holes because we have this giant cast and all these like things we tried to do in season 3 that we're having to excuse and make excuses for in season 6. That's what's going on, y'all. They've been lying to you in seasons 1 through 100 of the American presidential days of our lives. And we're now at 170 something or 270, so I don't know. And they are having to kind of like about deconstructing some of the previous lies without losing your trust moving forward. And that's the issue. They're losing a lot of people's trust. Maybe they've lost your trust, yours, but you haven't pieced together exactly what you do trust. Or maybe they've lost your trust and you know exactly what's going on. You just are looking for some sort of way to communicate that to the people that you care about. Send them this video. Share this video. It's long, but it's going to cover all the bases about at least the present day situation. So it'll give you a springboard to, I guess, make sense of what you're being told and why nothing actually works. Okay? So banks run the game. Okay? If I broke this whole conversation down into chapters, this would be chapter 3. Boom. Banks run the game. Chapter 1 was, Yo, war has historically shown us that they never tell us the truth about why it started or why it was even happening. Number two, that bankers have started all the wars that we've ever been in. That's been disclosed now people have done great documentaries on all wars are bankers' wars, all of them, okay? We've also, chapter two would be everything you're seeing, even through this screen, through the meta servers of Instagram, is entertainment. I'm trying to semi-entertain you today, but I'm trying to communicate tough stuff in a palatable enough way for people to like not fall off the conversation wagon, but also to hopefully reframe a lot of the noise that's going on today with what I am hoping is a bit more clarity and clear communication. Because that's one thing I don't think we're getting on average today is clear communication basically anywhere. So TV and media control the conversation. If a doctor says, if a lab says, here are our results, and they place them publicly, and the television station who's paid by the pharmaceutical company that paid that lab for those results says, here's your copy, meaning here's your lines, here's your words to say, here's your teleprompter, say these words. If you don't, this will be the end of your contract and we'll find another sucker who wants to be on TV who will say them. So most of the time, the people aren't bullied at those positions. They're told, you are important. You have a purpose in bringing the news to the masses. And so they understand that they work with this kind of like secret layer of information, but their aim is to synthesize it down and distill it down for the masses. The problem is that the average person does not necessarily know, and I even think that this applies within the anchor positions. And we're not talking about the national ones. We're just talking about the local anchors. They don't know that they're part of a bigger agenda. They just know what they know. Everybody's got these blinders. And so the news conversation is in COVID, with the COVID example, framed how you should think about the results of the lab test before you could go to the website, download the PDF, and look at the lab test yourself and decide for yourself. Meaning, the scientist wasn't really making the important decision here. The TV producer was. The TV producer was making the important decision because they either run to network or they don't with what their financial backers tell them to or not, and they clearly would get fired and replaced if they didn't. But the point is, the money people are paying the TV people to frame any piece of information how you should think about it. And right now they're working on two major framings, pro or anti. You can be anti-war or based on the talking points we give you, or you can be pro-war based on the talking points we give you, but they're manufactured talking points on both sides of the discussion. So war, history, what has it shown? It's shown us that the winners tell the story and they lie. And they use television media to do that because it filters everything you think you know about everything. The next chapter is the next line item on my outline of things to discuss is that the banks, the central national banks, they are the ones, okay? They, and they alone, are the ones pushing the buttons. That goes for nukes in Iran. That goes for any retaliatory nukes in America. That goes for anything that hits Gaza. That goes for anything that hits Israel. That goes for anything that ever hits Syria, Lebanon, Jordan. It is a centralized, coordinated dance. Okay? A dance. And in some cases, Donald Trump steps out and opens it and pulls out the chair for old BB. Netanyahu. So the issue here is that banks fund national banks, families familial dynasties. Now, there's a whole separate crack in the door on when you go down that rabbit hole where that takes you, but we're not talking about it tonight. I'm saying bloodlines of certain ilk run businesses. Some people do lawn maintenance. Some people do clothing and food. Some people, work in various industries of creative or business, accounting, all these things. And some people own banks. Okay? And those people, just them. And their board of directors, the people who set and establish who is allowed to be at those levels, and the councils and brotherhoods and fraternal orders that comprise those families in their multiple endeavors, as they chiefly do try to actually remain esoteric with this information. The point isn't to just stamp "I'm part of the control layer" on your forehead. It's to be hidden behind holdings companies and private equity and platinum equity groups and, investment hedge. It's like 73,000 ways to shield a snake. But the point is, those families decide. The very famous quote from, I think it's Meyer Amschel Rothschild himself, I care not who runs a country, just who controls this money. He who controls the money controls the war. We create. If I want a war in Germany tomorrow, we'll have a war in Germany tomorrow. France, I forget the specific country it was quoted as to saying. Now, maybe you are today years old and you've never heard of this. You think nukes, nuclear weaponry, nuclear disarmament. Yep. Maybe you think oil and weapons of mass destruction. We've got to stop terror. I mean, nobody on Earth has ever used nukes except America, but we need to be the ones to stop other people from using nukes. I mean, takes one to know one, right? We would know how to use, we would know who be using nukes because we the ones who's already used them. What? What do you mean? We're Christian. Therefore, ergo, vis-a-vis, the emoji that's like this, vis-a-vis, it couldn't be us. Couldn't be us. Because it says Christian. You see, it's a cross. See? Jesus or whatever. 2 Corinthians, you see? All you got to do is say 2 Corinthians. It's like this. 2 Corinthians. Next question. This is what, I mean, we're here. I'm laughing because I'm caught between this. Like, I recorded this earlier. And I was scrolling, doom scrolling, whatever scrolling. And it was like 6 videos in a row, and about 4 of the 6 were relating to the war situation. Different people's takes, different announcements, whatever. 2 of them were parodies about the fact that we're in war. This like Superman talking to Lex Luthor about like we being in war. It's funny, but then what I realize is that my emotions are going from, oh man, that's tragic. Scroll. That's hilarious. Scroll. Ooh, that's awful. Scroll. Ooh, that's awful. Scroll. That's hilarious. I'm like literally being like taken through this like emotional yo-yo. And the things that I thought were hilarious were bona fide, gut-busting, actually absurdly funny because of how absurd the situation is. But I thought in the moment, damn, is this what, like, I just heard about it. I'm not on Truth Social, right? So I'm having to hear that my country just bombed a different country from Twitter, from somebody else talking about the president's Twitter. It's like, huh? Like, if I wasn't even on this, I wouldn't know. Maybe ignorance is bliss, but maybe like they're gonna retaliate and I might need to know that. So thanks for the heads up. I don't have Truth Social installed. Maybe like say it louder or something, or don't do it at all and so they won't retaliate. That's an option too. I don't know. I'm not a diplomacy major. I don't know about nothing about democratic for fortitude and all this vociferousness. I just know. I know TV. I know that. I know screenwriting. I know that. I know Hollywood. I know that. I do know that. Okay. So I realized I'm like, my emotions are being pulled in this yo-yo fashion. And I'm actually halfway up on speed about kind of what's going on. I'm already aware that it has nothing to do with nukes or oil or anything, or even immigration or sleeper cells, any of that stuff. I'm like, I know that stuff. I'm not afraid of that stuff. And I'm sitting there like, wait, I'm getting emotionally manipulated too. Even in just like the fact that you're not supposed to be like gut busting laughing at rhetoric around the fact that your country just killed a bunch of people. And I can say that. I don't feel like I feel like it's something that poked out about the experience in that moment when I found myself literally LOLing at Superman and Lex Luthor and this meme going back and forth about, well, hold on, like, we didn't bomb Iran. When the reality is like Superman's totally right in that funny meme, but at the same time, like this is the wrong emotion to be an American putting out while somebody in the Persian world or Iran is like crying because their kid just got blown up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I didn't want that to happen. I didn't create that reality. I'm like hot because I have all these lights going. My head is like sweating like a mug. I didn't create that reality. But here I am like reflecting on it and like feeling powerless to do anything about it. And I can't help but wonder if the laughter and why the meme just hit so hard because of the context is because we have all this emotional rage and anger and upsetness built up inside of us as Americans, and we just don't know what to do about it. We're not actually equipped to like channel that outward. And a laugh is one type of emotion that like lets some of the overflow out for a second. But then you've kind of like, wait, why am I laughing? Like, that's not funny, really. It shouldn't be funny. It's hilarious, but it shouldn't be funny. Somebody said, did they actually blow up? Were there actual bombs? That's a great question. Now, I think so. But like, I mean, they've set the precedent where they don't actually do nothing and say they did, and the statement of it alone is enough to create the drama. So, back to the point at hand. Banks run the game. So imagine my surprise when I'm on I have a conversation recently, just yesterday, and this individual is very much more connected and informed about things than myself. Much older too, but it's kind of like, I always learn, I try to surround myself with people who can pour insight into me. With this particular person, I'm always trying to soak up what I can like a sponge, and it was very much Sponge Bob. We'll call him SpongeBob, sure, that's the individual's name. SpongeBob actually told me that, the person was like, this has nothing to do with nukes, right? The conversation was about something completely unrelated. We then got to talking about the whole Iran thing. And then they go, oh yeah, this has nothing to do about nukes, right? I'm like, I mean, I kind of always figured that, but like, why? What do you know? And it was explained to me that this is about a particular bank. Like, do you remember the banking Lehman Brothers deal in 2008? And we all saw that on the public side as like the housing crisis. Behind the scenes was a line being drawn in the sand where we're creating these new banking allies, and you're either with us or you're against us. And Lehman Brothers was on the outskirts. And so essentially what the public was told as this like bad money management, wasn't getting a bailout in time, was really just a smokescreen. American taxpayers didn't bail out any of those banks. That's not really how it works. All of that's a farce. It's not a farce in so much as this is part of the control structure, but it's not it's not functional to how things actually work on the backside. And it was really about consolidating players from Lehman Brothers onto new banking, agreements and away, and like leaving that ship to essentially drown, like the Titanic. This is essentially the same thing. This is a particular hexagram managed bank that is behind several of the national banks and central banks. has been losing a lot of like customers on the public side. We know about the, conversations with Iran as far as oil and India and all oil, but that's like down here, right? Same thing with like all the natural resources as well as like pipelines. I don't believe any of this is about money or pipelines. Why? Because these countries own mints, and mints create money, and everybody's not confused that everything is printed out of thin air. We've all done the deep dive on the fiat currency. Some of us have dove even deeper about the fact that currency in general is a whole fabrication of agreed upon electrical, yeses and nos in terms of IOUs. So today, I'm not going to get too tangential about that. It's just to say that it's not about money, right? If I'm a squillionaire, a multi-squillionaire, okay, got more money than you ever heard of and give a name to, I don't need more money. I need control. I need mind share. I need ideology. I need worshipers and followers. I don't need money. So I need people to, Stephanie is right. People do need to also understand the depth of bloodlines. And I'll explain why she's right in just a second. But people don't need money who make mints. People who own central banks don't need money. They want control. That's why they did central banks in the first place. Okay? You can make plenty of money in other ways, less removed from like national conversation. You just don't do that when you're trying to create the national conversation. So for the TLDR, I'm just showing up to a game late folk, this is what's actually happening. Since 1918, when the Federal Reserve Act was established, this is when the money conversation shifted away from anything American managed, and it went straight to hexagram management via their office in the UK. Okay, keeping up? All right, so 2018 was a whole century later, okay? That was 7 years ago now, 8 years ago at this point. So for a century plus 8 years, we have not owned our actual funding source of our country at all. Yo grandma was a baby when it happened. Yo mammy and pappy was just future hopes, dreams, and wild evenings on the disco floor. And you were baked and born into a culture that was already lied to about anything relating to the finances of our country for the last 100 years. Then in 1933, the ante got upped when your personal lifetime labor value got affiliated with this foreign corporation. So now they had legal title and vested interest over your estate, and that's what gave them the incentive and the reason to want to keep doing what they're doing each season. Oh, I hope you ain't sneezing. Oh, let's get back to it. So, Stefanita said the bloodlines are important, and yes, they are. Here's why. And this is another tangential aspect. I'm not going to get into it too deep on this discussion, but in case you weren't aware, there is an unseen realm that exists around us. It is both electromagnetically affected and spiritually affected, because I believe at the core spirits are small concentrations of electricity that can do very powerful things in vessels like bodies. But the agreements that are made between certain families of humans that exist in this dimension and in this side of the veil, or this layer of the game, so to speak, and the very sprites and spirits that exist on the other side of the veil in the dimension, whether we're talking basic mirror on the wall, super white magic stuff, or the very much darker, much blacker stuff, or the flip side of that, angels and the heavenly host praising and singing and restoring the saints from their demise and their hard times. These are both positive and negative examples of angels and devils. So when families make agreements, each generation, with devils, and the agreements with the devils are specifically to agree to manage what they are allowed to proliferate in this season on Earth at this time, The bloodlines begin to matter because the agreements and the contracts connect from generation to generation, and they take you seriously. You might have been today years old when you heard about it. You might have been. You just might have been today years old when you heard about the fact that these family bloodlines connect. Maybe you weren't, but maybe you were. But I'm here today to tell you they do. And it's important because the bloodlines are a part of the kerfuffle of it all. The average Israeli, the average Arab, the average Christian, the average Jew who's not an Israeli, but maybe is American or lives somewhere else, or maybe he's a European Jew, all of those categories of people are being lied to about just a couple hundred years recent of bloodline gefufflement. And it's not like any of this is just made up or fabricated. It's really just a pew, 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 pew. Take this one here, put that there, switch that around, cover that up, intermix this, move that over there, put these titles and subcategories and mesh it all together, make nobody understand the distinctions in these subcategories. It's about that. It's not about hating anyone. It's not about prejudice. It's about holding hands and finding common ground with Jewish people, Arab people, Christian people, Muslim people, atheists, all of us. To be like, y'all, come on now. Come on now. They're not going to just keep saying anti-Semitism so none of us can talk, right? I'm not anti-Semitic, okay? If you're Jewish and you're willing to actually hear me out, you'll find that I've actually grown to gain a lot more respect for your culture from a historical sense. I just don't recognize that in the present state at all. So if you have any respect for your culture in a historical sense, maybe you can see the distinction too. And if you can, we're not enemies. We're here, we're basically looking at the same problem, you and I. And if that problem keeps saying I'm anti-Semitic for pointing it out, you could be my Jewish brother or Jewish sister that helps dispel that. Now, I'm not here today to undo, generations of programming. I'm just here to say, everybody seems to be so inflamed at this conversation, it can never be truly had. And what's happening, I think, right now is a realization for a lot of people that America isn't America, okay? When you see those American flag, when you see Trump at his own house on his own social media post saying, I'm gonna be the president, and behind him are, because he probably shot it on the green screen just like this, was half flags that were American and they all had golden fringes around them. And the other half of the flags were hexagram based and they all didn't have golden fringes on them. That tells me, someone who understands what the iconography and the whole point of a prop or art department bothering to put them flags up there in the first place, is trying to actually communicate to all the people who understand admiralty law, who understand jurisdiction, who understand flag code, who understand military code, or, I won't say every soldier or veteran, because they don't teach them these things. But some of them do. Some of them they do, and some of them really do understand. We aren't our own. So I don't be getting mad at Donald Trump for making decisions that he didn't make, okay? It's just ridiculous at this point. All the talking points to hate him are manufactured and false. All the talking points to love him and support him are manufactured and false. It's quite impressive to watch as an outsider. It really is, because I don't take any skin in the game emotionally. I empathize with family and friends who do, but I don't personally. So I'm always like, man, have y'all caught the fact that this dude not only is the very reason that Operation Warp Speed exists, and not only has done everything to spearhead this global agenda ahead of what y'all even knew was even possible, but he just hit every single go button he possibly could hit, and he's technically had the most support. Now, when I say this, the common propaganda trigger has every person who left either going, yeah, see, he's right. Donald Trump is the idiot. It would have been better with Kamala or Biden. No, because they're puppets in control too. Okay, but for everybody else on the right, that's like, well, hold on now. You can't say that. They just got to give them time. maybe your ears had some wax in it when I said America hasn't been America for 100 plus years. 100 plus years. It's a long time for you to just be born, 75 or so years later after this ink dried. And you want to tell me how you wrong and I just need to keep voting, waiting 5D chess and all this nonsense. And it's just kind of like 250 years. And it's like, all right, y'all. So here we are. This has nothing to do with nukes. Now, COVID helped me understand that a guy don't have to really eat a bat in a wet market in China, really. He don't have to actually eat one. They don't have to actually provably show that a zoonotic anomaly, like hopping disease, a virus hopping two different species and infecting someone in a wet market could actually translate to a functional genome that spreads around never mind that none of that actually has to be shown or proven. It just has to be said that it is. They just have to say it. They just have to say it. Somebody said corporation of who? Maybe people in the comments can help her out. Just in case you didn't know, America is not a republic. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. Yeah, but that flag that you're shown isn't the same flag as the vassal flag. The flag you pledge allegiance to don't have no golden fringes. That is a republic's flag. It should be hanging vertically to show we're at peace and not at war, unless we are at war. But it ain't, and it's always got the fringes around it. So that flag that you pledge allegiance to the republic, that's gone. It's a corporate buyout from the year 1918, technically from the year 1871. Then it was like put in to kind of like it took a little bit to get it installed. And then it took, after the installation, another 15 or so years to get it like activated for everybody's estate. But that was pushing 900 years ago now. What were you, 8 years shy? 33? What is that? 8 years shy, y'all. 8 years shy of the 1933 New Deal construction, in which a lot changed for how your rights and stuff are considered regarding things. Now, somebody said 1771. 1771 is when the conversation in the North American continent begins. 1871 is when it changes. So between 1771 and 1868, to be honest, that's when there was a republic for which it stands. That's gone. Okay, they told us about it in class. They just didn't tell us that they killed it in 1871. Okay, it was shot straight dead since 1871. Okay, now what's been going on since then is this corporate United States, and it seems like that's actually what's coming to under scrutiny. Now, Trump himself tweeted Biden was executed in 2018. The real one, the current one's a clone. Now, we're not going to talk about clones and all that tonight, but saying that that statement didn't just come out of his butthole actually, but just maybe like grammatically, not like literally. Let's just say he just maybe was sharing a silly, whimsical, lighthearted version of the truth. I'm not saying it was true. I'm just saying it could have been. I mean, the president said it. He also, using that same platform, said we bombed Iran. So y'all can decide whether he's always telling the truth or sometimes telling the truth, or if it's just called Truth Social because if that's just an irony here. Y'all be the decision makers on that. But Trump, what I'm trying to do is, I have this outline. I'm trying to stick to the outline. But what is clear to me at this point is that he's not really in charge of the decisions. He's in charge of the sales. He's in charge of the galvanization, the acceptance. He absorbs a lot of the hate when bad moves are made from an ideologically disagreeable half of the conversation. He's the punching bag. He's the torque behind actually getting embassies relocated and moves made and shots in arms and actual legislation moved and Palantir in position. It's like he's the grease, the muscle. But he's not the like the actual Italian boss. He's just the Vinny, the guy, Vincenzo, hey, Vinny, hey, do my thing for me. He's the guy that actually goes, I know I say he's the guy, he represents the engine that actually does that. And what I think that people don't get when they take so much issue of hatred or support for him is that they keep doing that thing where they attribute more power to someone than that person has. And that's a problem on many levels. Yes, on a personal level, but I just mean on like a situational level. Like if we're trying to decide whose choice it was to change out all the trees in the neighborhood for palm trees, you don't go to the like Mexican day worker and ask him like, yo, bro, ayo, ese, quieres, tengo pregunta para ti. You don't go up to him like that and like yell at him talking like, I got a question for you. You go to the HOA, you go to the neighborhood, the office. You know, you see what I'm saying? It's like you don't get mad at the guy just actually moving the trees in position that he don't own a neighborhood. That's what it's like with the American president, y'all. You can see it. You could clearly see it with the last president. The point is, the issue that's really happening, I think, has more to do with a central bank lines being drawn in the sand over who controls money in the new system moving forward. I think that there's a tremendous amount of open road Wild Wild West as we move this whole biodigital convergence conversation from a pipe dream and a testing bed up to scale. And I think that this crypto forward central bank managed crypto blockchain currency has a whole new control. It's not a control layer. It's just that the decentralization aspect is still centralized up the chain. Managing how the decentralized gets decentralized is really the name. That's what we're seeing. Managing who the gatekeeper, like where the funneling happens, I guess maybe is a better way to put it, is really what we're seeing, I think, play out. And I was just told, I'm just relaying the message. I could be wrong. The info could be bad. It could be actually what's going on. But what I was told is that this has everything to do with a particular bank and series of similar type execution type trials in the background. I'm not saying tribunals, and I'm not saying, oh, the republic's being restored. This has nothing to do with that. This is saying, I think there's a much bigger global thing happening behind the scenes, and this is what we're seeing on TV is really, really bad acting at this point. That's it. Just really bad acting and kind of whimsical, haphazard writing. Because if you ask me, maybe there's a lot more credence to the AIs really running things than people would otherwise know. I think that all these variables, all these random psyops and lies going on, they need an AI to manage the story. And the AI's like 37 plot holes detected. We can clear about 15 of them, but the other ones are just you're gonna have to just bluff around them. And that's what they're doing anytime they can, because they just control who gets to talk to who and what's really happening on the national conversation so effectively hard that it just becomes this it becomes a mime of what's really going on. So no, I believe, and I've talked this over, I have a friend, someone who's close to the family actually, who grew up in Japan. And they have family. They don't live in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but they visited there multiple times. And they have family there. And they do talk about the conversation about nuclear being kind of a little bit of a sore spot. But it's like people still been living there this whole time. So it wasn't until I heard a couple different people really challenge the whole concept of nuclear arms that hard before I really stepped back and said, wow, okay. I mean, I always just assumed that there were nukes, but I understand I've been lied to about everything. COVID proved to me that as long as the lie is big enough and enough people believe it, it works. There doesn't have to be any real nukes that Iran has, just as long as enough people think they do. Just as long as you think, it's reminding me of this song, like this song lyric from this artist that I like, John Bellion. It's called The Internet. And the hook goes, life became famous, or life became dangerous the day we all became famous. No one cares if you're happy, just as long as you claim it, yeah. How can we change this the day we all became famous? No one cares if you have it, just as long as they think you do. And the whole concept of the whole verse is just as long as you think. Don't need the hook, just need you to think I said it. Don't need the sermon, just need you to think I read it. Don't need the word, just need you to think I said it. And that's such a great sentiment, because the internet's proven just as long as people think the nukes went off, they went off. Now, I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying, just as long as people think somebody ate a bat and a pangolin in a wet market, then it works. Just as long as people think Wuhan Institute of Virology truly leaked a crazy bioweapon, then it works. It's not because it's true, it's just because enough people think that it is. And that is a whole new battlefield and a ripe conversation of what could be possible in the warfare strategy. Because now, and we're not talking blue beam, but when you're just talking body to body molecular mycelial network communication tethered through this faux fake network connected ether that they're fusing everyone onto and interconnecting the entire wireless internet system into, then it's like, we're in a whole new world, a new fantastic way of war. No one to touch. Y'all get it. So the whole point of why I'm here today is just to kind of hopefully just squash a little bit of fear over the issue acutely. And hopefully what that translates to functionally is something that maybe springboard from and research to help you and your family and your friend circle, in your communication, your work environment, whatever, or just maybe your spouse or your loved one, just have a little bit more of a shield. Because I should finish my thought. A little bit more of a shield of what's coming in the near future. Because my thought is that if the cortisol is present, it worked, right? Whether it's a real threat of a retaliation or an actual retaliation, if the cortisol is there, present in your system, their fear tactic worked. Period. Doesn't actually matter if the bomb. It don't matter. Like if I show up in your house and I'm like, say sucker, pay me all your money. You hear me? Give me everything. Give me the flat screens. I want the microwave. I want it all. I want the refrigerator. Why I would steal your refrigerator? Don't ask. This is a hypothetical analogy. But if I bust up and I only have my finger, but you don't know that, you think it's a gun. And here I am, this 6'7" black dude busted down your door like I'm some crazy man. And I'm like, give me all your snacks. That's a fact, Jack. And why I would be rhyming while also assailing you, we're not going there. We're just hypotheticalizing right now. If I have the gun, if I don't have the gun, does either of those matter as long as you think that I do? Just as long as they think you do. Just as long as they think you do. If I have the gun and it's unloaded and I left my bullets in the car, my clip and my mag was empty, does it matter? Just as long as you think it ain't. Does it matter? I'm just asking for a friend. So if it's safer to actually rob you just under the supposition that I could kill you, that is an effect. I just went, boo, and you like, I take it. That's all I did is say, boo. I ain't touch you, I ain't assault you, I ain't threaten you. I didn't technically even take anything. You gave it to me. But I used just fear and just the perception of the idea that I had a gun. I'm up here doing an improv Key and Peele sketch, and you over there pissing on yourself and giving me all your belongings. PlayStation controllers, everything. Y'all understand? I would never do that. I'm just saying, if I was such a scoundrel, if such scoundrelous activities were bequeathed upon my decision-making quadrants, maybe the bluff is good enough. And it's actually a safer way to rob somebody. Because what you gonna charge me with? Saying boo too loud? I ain't had there's no concealed issue. There's no aggravated anything. I mean, I ain't touch you. You gave me your stuff technically. I ain't busting the house. I just made you open the door because you thought I was gonna shoot you if you didn't. See what I'm saying? It's a safer way for me to do dirty work if I can actually be successful with no gun and just a bluff the whole time. I could always weasel my way out of being arrested. Somebody said, you are revealing proprietary secrets from the Tavistock Institute. There we go. She know about Tavistock. This is a think tank, an old London-based kind of like decision thought tank that churned out the Beatles and half these other pop acts that we are familiar with. But the whole point was about social engineering. You don't gotta actually blow nothing up if you can just say you did. If you got electromagnetic weapons that you've had for eons, ? And all you have to do is send a standard, bomb, just a conventional boom, like a TNT thing. And at the exact same time of detonation, you can hit this radiologically melt button, plasma gun, go. Bzzz. You can call that nuclear because it does affect the nucleus of all the living cells underneath the microwave blast radiation zone. But it's not plutonium fission-based destabilized warhead detonation. It's like the Manhattan Project and Cillian Murphy and Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer and all that. TV. And then there's what's actually going on over here. Okay? Real business, real neat, straight efficient. If we're going to take over a place, we don't want to wait 50,000 years to take it. We want to take it right now. That's how things work. Y'all heard the story of the dude reading the book I believe it was War of the Worlds. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. War of the Worlds, the radio broadcast. They're just reading this book on the radio. People getting in their car, coming home from work, and they think the actual book is real life and that the radio anchors are reading to them, giving them a play-by-play of what's going on. Turns out it was just a book. Now, if that can happen to well-meaning Americans, why couldn't it happen to Japanese when a bomb also went off and some button was pushed at the same time that melted some people? Atma over here, boiling cells super quick at different densities of flesh. They can dial it in. Exactly. Anything you can build up, you can break apart. Hello? Crazy space weapons exist, and they're not like lasers from the planet Voltron or sitting on Mars, the moon, with like Marvin the Martian Jetsons looking guns and like satellite dishes coming out the side. It's just small boxes and small flat things and like antenna arrays in Alaska that coalesce with other ones in Switzerland and then do some other things, and then things bounce and they call it the ionosphere, but we know it's something different, and and boom. Before you know it, cells are boiling, looking like a Thanos scene in the doggone Avengers movie. And TV takes it from there. Dun da da da! Nuclear! Nuclear! And this whole time, ain't nobody dropped a single nuclear bomb on anybody anywhere but America, maybe, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. People have been living there and the city carried on just as fine, unlike the popular narrative. And yes, we saw the pictures in the museums. And yes, I'm not saying people didn't die. I'm just saying maybe the concept of the nuclear threat was just the fear necessary to do what? I don't know, 60, 70 years worth of effective legislation, nuclear disarmament treaties, and all this leading to the UN pandemic preparedness treaty, all these things to consolidate the control away from individual nations. And to who? The people that's just gonna push the button when it's time to push it and tell y'all some BS? It's some BS. Oh yeah. Oh, they're gonna have nukes next week, said Netanyahu in 1995. It's gonna be next week. Oh, don't ask why our intel has been wrong for 30 years. It's not that. Because that's what they're asking you to do. The Mossad is like the most sophisticated intelligence agency, according to basically anybody who ever talks about this stuff. But they want you to believe that that agency was wrong about the most significant nuclear threat on Earth for 30 plus years in a row. But now they're not wrong. They're right now. Now they're right. It don't have nothing to do with the bank in the background about to be busted wide open and all of the dirty little secrets coming out and all the big change of guards. That it's really to a new set of snakes, not the old set of snakes. But the old set of snakes is not trying to give up this money. Oh no, we got this money. Ooh, so much money. We ain't trying to give it up that easy. We'll blow up half of Iran, blow up America too if we had to. Nobody gonna see up our skirt. Oh no, our downstairs mix-up is too embarrassing to be shown on national television. Plus we own it. Anyway, no we don't. You can't say we own it. I mean, we can say that, but you can't. It's anti-Semitic if you say it. It's the truth if we say it. Now, everybody knew the running joke. I worked in the industry. I lived in Los Angeles over a decade. We saw it. Well, nobody was hating on it. Really? Why? It doesn't serve you no purpose to hate on the mafia that runs your block if you're working in that block. I ain't got no beef against it. But most of the Jewish people that I dealt with were just fine. They were some of the homies, some cool cats. That's why I get affected kind of by the conversation from an empathetic. I know it sounds like strange in this nebulous issue of Israel causing so much drama around it to find empathy for what's inside the bubble. But I'm telling you, the people inside the bubble are just the energy being charged up for the implosion. They're not the decision makers. And the decision makers aren't Jewish. Like, that's the one thing I can say that is plain. If this gets me kicked off or canceled, so be it. The decision makers aren't actually Jewish by blood or by ideology. They look at Christians and Jews as like two links in a floor mat that they can walk on top of to achieve their goal of almost having gotten their world domination through the central banking system. It's like they'll use that Jewish vehicle when it's convenient because they know you ain't going to challenge it because of all the pre-propaganda and stuff that they've laid down over the years of why you're too scared to. Plus, most people have never spent any time around the Hebrew faith or culture, so they don't know how to find distinctions between the biblical concept of Israel and the present day concept of Israel. Couldn't be further from the same thing if you ask me, but you know, I was the guy who on the SAT, the reading comprehension side, that was my side. The math and all that, I wasn't too into that. I did all right because I had to, but like I hated the numbers and triangles and all the equations. I was like, read this, synthesize this information and regurgitate. That's what I like to do. Words, not numbers. And I'm trying to educate as palatably respectful as I can. You know, my wife and I just spent our yesterday observing Shabbat. Why? Because we actually respect the core of that conversation as it relates to God establishing a code of righteousness on earth. What clearly picked up after David and Solomon's time and has been very much carried forward both through the scriptures and through the New Testament times and through the first century war of Jewish-Roman war and to the Nero-Domitian days and to the Constantine days and to the Khazarian days and to the current days. That's a whole different story. Okay, that has nothing to do with the original backstory. But part of the time I spent in learning the foundation, because for myself and my wife, the real impulse was, okay, well, we grew up Christian, so my question is, who is Jesus? I need to know who this Jesus is. And that search like had me deep diving into first century nuances. And that's where I discovered, hello, are y'all really reading the book? Israel wasn't actually bloodline Israel in the Bible. Like, what are y'all even talking about? Like, they gave 10 different options as to where they could establish a nation for these people. Palestine wasn't even in the top section at first. That's a documented historical fact. Y'all are just 100 years late to the conversation, but that did happen. Okay, the Herodian class in the new, working backwards, right? Israel was captured and done officially on paper in like 70 AD, 73 AD. That was the big Jewish-Roman war of the first century. But working backwards during the time of Jesus and his time on earth, if anybody remembers the king issuing a decree to kill all the boys 2 and under, right, that's because Judah wasn't in control of the government of Judea at the time. I don't understand why people think that somehow just flipped. Now, again, this is a much more nuanced conversation, and I'm not here to inflame Jewish people about rights and worth and, a right to existence. Nobody said you shouldn't have a right to exist. The question is a lot different, because that very question in the context of this, we're asked, do these people have a right not to exist at the same time? So you can't just separate both of those conversations. Both of those questions by asking one half. But again, I'm not here to inflame or cause drama. The point is, the worst perpetrators aren't actually Jewish. And when you understand that, you don't hate Jews. Nothing is anti-Semitic. You feel a little bad for them because you're like, y'all getting shitted on. And I understand why most of y'all don't, because y'all went through the same propaganda that we got on. Y'all had a different flavor of it than we did, but surprise, surprise, nobody's from where they said we was from. Hello, me too. They said I was from Africa. Turns out I'm actually Native American. How about that, right? So it's a whole separate conversation about where we from and who was being told the truth. But it's when I learned that the worst offenders aren't really actually, they're basically borrowing David's name and identity and associating a star with him that he never associated with himself. That's when it was like, oh God, you can't, like, you shouldn't hate on these Jewish people. Half these Jews don't know this. They just are taught the same thing we do. Like they're like, if Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton are actually like Turkish, Indian, Haitians, or like Chinese robots that they just made to look like they look, and they're leaders of the black community, and then I find out, oh wait, these actually aren't like from my people, am I supposed to just support them anyway? When what they're asking me to support is detrimental to my own health and safety and well-being and my neighbors, which are technically my cousins? Y'all keep talking about Semites. Hello, Arabs are Semites too. That's why this whole conversation is just like, stop saying that word. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, y'all messed it up. You can't even use it as an insult anymore because it don't even sting. It's just annoying at this point. And yes, I know Jewish people get crapped on and shitted on just like black folk, but just like trailer park white folk and broke Chinese folk and too dark Indian folk, everybody gets shitted on, okay? It's just like, that's life, okay? What I found out is that my cultural leaders are lying about my personal heritage. And then I found I'm not the only culture whose cultural leaders are lying about their heritage. It's just that that particular group of leaders lying about their heritage are doing so, bringing a lot of shame to everything under the Abrahamic conversation. Everything. And it's shame to the Muslims and the Islamic portion of that conversation in a very tangible way, very, very tangible way. Christians are way removed from this. They're charging up the Jack in the Box on the whole Christian thing, because soon as enough of them, the world had enough of y'all hypocrisy, it's about to be kaboom, kaboom. But as far as the Islamic conversation right now, my whole life has been nothing but bombs over Baghdad. Don't even think unless you plan to hit something. Bombs over Baghdad. Y'all know the song. So, yeah, crypto mana is right. That's why there's a big difference between Yahudim and Yahudite. Like the Yahudim and the Judeans. Like the people who live in the city of Judea were mostly Greek and Hellenists. The Yahudim were the family that extended from the guy who was named after the region. See what I'm saying? So it is tough when they've truncated it down to this 3-letter word, but I got a little bit specific to say, if we're talking linear, it's helpful when you understand. Just starting with the Abrahamic conversation, because yes, the conversation is wider, but for simplicity's sake, I've done this in previous lives. I'm just going to quickly recap it here. You have Noah, and he has 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth goes off and creates dynasties and sons and daughters and children that have whole sections of the world populated from Japheth's sons, as the story goes. And Japheth's sons, one of whom is a man named Ashkenaz. Now that's genealogically very valid, very important. You can look this up. Ham has a bunch of kids. Shem, S-H-E-M. Shem has a bunch of kids. And the conversations down the 3 different brothers' family trees keep going. And the real focal point of the story picks up down all the way 12 or 14 generations down under Abraham. Abraham does a thing. That thing is recognizing the unrighteousness in his area, turning against the pagan idolatry of the common Chaldean culture, talking to his father about it, and his father was like, I don't know nothing about that. Go talk to Shem, his ancestor. He learns these ways from Shem and carries them forward. And for that, God says, as the story goes, Abram, I'm going to change your name to Abraham, and I'm going to make you the father of many nations. And yes, he says a lot more, but that's the bigger takeaway. Abraham has a son, 2 of them, Isaac and Ishmael. Now, all of these are coming from Shem. Remember Shemitism, okay? All these down the tree, and again, in the other series, I broke the actual family tree down. Anything under this is Shemitic. Somewhere 2 or 3 generations above Abraham is Heber or Eber, where you get the concept of Hebrew or Hebraic, the Ibrim. The H got added later, but the constant, like the basically sound is the same. Then somebody says, how can you have a civilized conversation and just talk it out with people who are extremists and are raised to hate and kill? Well, you can't with them, but if you can get enough of an audience, even with an extremist raised to hate and kill, to challenge some of their logic or to introduce enough points that they can't refute, then everybody else listening will hear, and the seeds will be planted, and the extremists will just stay in extremists like they always do. Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. Ishmael has a whole crop of kids that go off to become what many know today as the larger Arab world. And yes, there are nuances, and yes, it goes much deeper than this, but this all leads back to Shem. So the modern day Arabs are still Shemitic people, all right? Ishmael. Then you have Isaac, and Isaac, who marries Rebekah, who has the twins, Jacob and Esau. Now, Jacob is the son whose namesake turns to Yasharal, which after cycles of resets and destabilizations and remixes and transliterations becomes Israel, or becomes transliterated to Israel. But it is the individual Jacob whose name equals Israel, as the story goes. Jacob's brother, Esau, becomes a nation just like Jacob does, right? All these individual people become these giant nation states over time. Even Ishmael, even like Ham's people and Japheth's people. Esau and Jacob. Jacob becomes Israel. Esau is who becomes Edom. That's Edom. Amalek, Edom. There are certain different names from the Rephaim. There's like maybe 15 or let's just say 10 or 15 different titles, terms, cultures, last names, family names that collectively represent the enemies of Israel as far as the biblical and Torah narrative is concerned. One of them being Edom. They're pervasively known as having challenged Israel. Why? Well, apparently it started from the beginning, and the porridge and the birthright and the heel. One will grab the other's heel, and one will be the servant, and Jacob tricks Isaac with Rebekah and stealing the birthright, and Esau. That's, again, there's the whole backstory. And then we're met with 12 children that Jacob has, and those become the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is all in the book of Genesis, by the way. So in the Israel conversation, that namesake originates Torah-wise and biblical-wise with one person and his children. All 12 of those sons and the 2 daughters are considered tribes of Israel. They are all considered Israel. That collectively represents God's promise, nations that number more than the stars on earth, but totally not like the smallest, relatively speaking, nation state on earth thousands of years later. I need people to understand that I'm trying to illustrate that if my name is Jones and I have 11 brothers, and 10 of those 11 brothers scatter around the earth, and I come back and I overtake a cousin's house in 1948 and say that it's my own because the Edomite state allowed me to do that, I don't represent my entire family. See what I'm saying? I just represent the one son. Now, yeah, the namesake carries forward, but there are other people under the umbrella of the Jones family that are not represented in who I allowed to come back to my nation state. They exist in those other 11 brothers and their children and the entire family tree that builds out of the world from that. So when we talk about Aboriginals, natives, indigenous, all these conversations that when you start to go back in history, you start losing names and how anybody got anywhere and how the land looked like they were. Was it a Pangea? Was it always like this? Was it a flood? Did it create? We don't really know. Y'all shut up. The Dark Ages is all nebulously put together. Because we're dealing with that, I think what many people are missing is that those 11 other brothers and their family exist out and elsewhere. And the backstory pretty much stops in the book of Genesis, but doesn't stop in terms of actual awareness. And we know that based on words of Jesus all the way in the New Testament. I'm not coming for the Gentiles. I'm coming for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, we're not going to make this a Bible rant or a Bible conversation specifically. I'm not anti or, this isn't a bashing against the Bible. I'm just trying to illustrate. If we're going to be going off of, well, the Bible says if we bless Israel, we bless them. The Bible doesn't say that. God said that to Abraham, the nations that bless you will bless you, but he wasn't talking about corporate municipal nation states owned by banks. He was talking about people groups. And if God, who has a perfect memory, if you ask me, wants to consider a people group Israel, it doesn't actually matter what a Balfour Declaration says or what a, UN charter says. And but his promise to bless those who bless Abraham's seed and to curse those who curse Abraham's seed is still there. So if I'm telling you that there is one imposter seed working thousands of years later after this promise was given to Abraham. And that imposter seed is quite literally not of the actual bloodline, because not only are the Ishmael mixed with Edom, mixed with Khazar, mixed with, some Raytheon, I got my thoughts on exactly ... But the point isn't to be hypothetical or to guess here. It's to say, I just have this hunch that they've inverted who is who. And so your very support for a false Semite killing a true Semitic people it's like making you under the curse section of God's promise, because you don't realize that God's promise is real. They just lie to you about who's who. The lie came much later about who's wearing what hat. And the promise of the Most High isn't subject to some later lie. He didn't say Israel. He said nation, and he didn't mean corporate municipal nation state run by a central bank. He's talking about the people that bless Abraham's seed. So Abraham, remember Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac has two sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau becomes Edom. They become Khazarian influenced over time, as the story goes. And Jacob becomes a pretty large family that carries on where most of his most of his sons and their family scatters. Early Genesis, we're still in Genesis at this point, into the story. And so the entire Bible, through Judges and Kings and the Exodus, the whole let my people go and we want a king, and okay, King David, okay, King Solomon, okay, Solomon kind of was doing the most, little too much booty popping, and here we are. Now we're captured, okay, Daniel, okay, Ezra, okay, boom, okay, Yeshua, okay, the temple in 70 AD falling, okay, boom, Nero and Domitian come in at the end of the first century and mow down the rest of the mostly Hellenized Judean culture, who was already given up to the Herods and the Caesars by the time Jesus was around, so they weren't really Jewish, even though they were Judeans, which is why, to that person's earlier point, knowing these terms and their distinctions is very important. It's like if Amerigo Vespucci was a person, just because you're an American don't mean you related by blood to Amerigo Vespucci. Judea was the city, the state name that was captured and owned for almost 1,000 years at the point of Jesus showing up. Named after Judah, the son of Jacob, but he doesn't comprise all of Israel. Most of Israel is scattered as far as the whole Bible is concerned. Now, yes, we have rhetoric about spiritual Israel and the rebirthing, but that's a separate conversation. I'm talking about the literal, we need to support Israel. That's nowhere to be found in the Bible. You will find a translation that says that. It was re-edited and changed to say that, to suggest that that's what that meant in the footnotes. In the basically 130 or so years ago, it wasn't even that old of a phenomenon. It simply doesn't say that any one nation should be supported. Furthermore, the Israel of the Bible was always supported by God, right? Israel literally never needed another nation's support. And it always got God's support when they were obedient. And obedience wasn't just about being brave and killing the Canaanites. It was about righteousness and righteous living for the most part. So there's just a whole switcheroo on who's who. And it's got a lot of people on both skin hues, okay? So this isn't no anti-Semitic trope. I'm trying to illustrate, educate, communicate. I was lied to about my origins too, okay? It's not racist to say that somebody lied to me about where I'm from, so please don't call it anti-Semitic to say somebody lied to you about where you're from. Milakovsky was the last name before it was Netanyahu. All of these Polish Jew, like I said this to somebody the other day. It's like, it's a conversation between semantics and importance. The important parts of a conversation are distinguishing what's valid and what isn't. Semantics is more about, I feel this way and this triggers me, so it makes me feel this way. But a lot of those triggers and feelings are from programming and propaganda, not because whoever triggered you is wrong about what they said. Most of the time, things that trigger you are pretty much true. So I'm trying to kind of like round this out to say, I'm going to be doing a bigger series on the backstory of who these people, what my research has shown me. But it's basically led me to understanding, oh, okay, got it. The Jewish people of today are being lied to about their own leadership and what that leadership connects to. That leadership isn't really Jewish. They're just claiming to be. And they're using the Jewish brand and Jewish name to do all kinds of really awful stuff on the world. And they're just telling you you're not allowed to say that because of the Holocaust. And that's it. They're just saying, well, look at what happened the last time people hated Jews. But that's been a giant reframing of what really went on in Germany prior to World War II. That's not what we were told is a blank owned media, hexagram funded media engine spinning what most likely was just a removal of a very popular nation from the central bank and a successful internal bank system. I mean, we've seen it with Gaddafi. We can't say they haven't done something like this before. Maybe Gaddafi just wasn't the first time. And yeah, they didn't have to go so hard in the paint so long because Gaddafi didn't get up and running as long as certain other nations might have in Germany. So somebody say, can I explain a little about Cain? Yeah, the Cain thing is very interesting because like what you never know if when they're claiming to be the seed of Cain is if they're going wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's like some futuristic human augmentation, life extension apps technology that we're calling the Cain software and like we're seeds of Cain. We don't know if it's really like some tongue-in-cheek thing or if they literally can trace their bloodline back to Cain and Abel. I don't know. But what I do know is that they seem to take a very serious distinction in who is and who isn't on the team, quote unquote, when it comes to running the world with them. And I'm just kind of like a little bothered by the fact that nobody can really have, I guess people have plenty of personal rich conversations. I just don't really see them on podcasts and I don't really see them on media or anywhere else I would see anything. So I'm just kind of like, I can't be the only one, y'all. Come on now. Hello, does anybody read? Yeah, you might have done great or not at all of the SATs and all the standardized testing, but I really did like to read and like try to remember and like see the scene that I was reading in my head as I'm reading. And when I read the Bible, it doesn't say Israel gets a perpetual license to be supported by other countries. It says Israel never had or needed any other nation's support, except for in very unique passages or unique situations. But for the most part, they had God's support. And they only had that support when they were acting righteous. And their leadership was unrighteous almost the entire time of their existence. Does anybody read the scripture? You have King David, you have the judges, Deborah and all the righteous judges. Okay. You have Moses, a righteous judge, but just a singular guy. Eleazar, Phinehas, all his sons, like one generation, right? Then you have Deborah and the whole judges era. Then you have, we want a king, King Saul. What does he do? Almost get Israel killed, almost kill David. Then you have King David, who does good, but he was king for 15 or 18 years. Then you have Solomon, who was super rich, but we're told that he went and his kingdom got taken over by one of his hoes' daddy, who was king of a different country, because Solomon liked the hoes. That's what we's told. Solomon likes the hoes. This is where your hexagram energy comes from. The word on the street was that he knew how to summon demons. And that information and those protocols and those practices are very much what fuel the control of the world today. This is why the family bloodlines matter. They make these agreements. They keep these secrets. The leadership of Israel from King Ahaz and King Jehoshaphat and King Jehoiakim, minus Josiah, Hezekiah, Samuel, who wasn't even a king. I'm really scratching my head here. We're talking corrupt the entire rest of the entire biblical story from the 5th or 6th book on. And we're actually sitting here today pretending like it's not going on anymore. No corruption in Israel's leadership. I mean, 7/8 of the biblical story is about Israel having a corrupt leadership, but that's not true today. I mean, are we reading? Are we paying attention? Are we listening? Are we comprehending what is being said? What's the point of anybody? What's the point of anybody writing anything down if everybody just doesn't read it, or they read it and just like, oh, okay, well, that was that, but this is now I stand with. You don't have to stand with. To stand with is to pick a side. What you have to do is be informed. You have to be unemotionally manipulatable, if that's the word. I don't know. Hard to be manipulated emotionally. How about we'll say it like that. Historically, Persia has always been its own thing. Now, if you ask me, every single one of these nations are already on board. Iran would have got blowed up back when they first said that they had weapons of mass destruction, way before anybody could have been on Twitter and talking about Google Veo and AI and all these different things faking the funk. They would have taken them out way back then if they were truly a threat, just like they did with everybody else. Okay, so every military at this point is working together. They already did their silent coup, silent takedown, and this was probably pushing a century ago, just like they did with America. So what we're watching play out right now is this dance. Don't get caught up in the dance. Just don't get caught up in the dance. That's it. Don't get caught up in the dance. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Because if Iran does or doesn't have, if Iran does have nukes, they had them. And they ain't going to use them unless the bankers tell them to. And if Iran doesn't have nukes, then it won't matter anyway. And I truly believe that nobody does, not even America at the time, that we are dealing with really large propaganda. And I started to piece this together having worked in the Hollywood industry, because I was always kind of like, okay, so it seems to me that the pattern is anything they make a bunch of movies about, like every couple of years there's a new movie about this theme or topic. That's what they really want to reinforce to the children and to the teens and 20-somethings, that this is history. This is really what happened. So what do I see a lot of movies about? Space. There's a lot of stuff about slave, Africa, Amistad, Django Unchained kind of like story over and over. There's a lot of like America was like this in the West, like Westerns and like old world movies telling us how primitive things were when they apparently built buildings that were more sophisticated than we can build today before power tools were invented, but on horse and buggy. And the only reason we think it was that way is because we've all watched old-timey movies. They always tell the World War II story. That's a theme. Y'all seen it in the movies. How many times we done seen Man in the High Castle, or the movie, or this movie about the Mustache Man, or that movie about the Mustache Man. We done seen so many movies. Y'all supposed to be the ones that got oppressed by him, that run these studios and banks. Why y'all keep talking about it? Somebody killed my grandpa. You think I'm gonna keep talking about it 50 years after the fact? Why y'all talk about it all the time? Oh, number one, he didn't kill your actual grandparents because y'all not from the bloodline. Y'all was the ones paying for the other ones to get killed. And 2/3, that's how y'all keep the lie going. This dude just pulled out of the central bank and really was trying to reverse what was happening financially over there. And y'all just said, nah, that can't be. That's an absolute no-no. So we about to launch the biggest smear campaign ever on this dude. And it worked. It still works. To this day, it's still working. They still making movies. It works. I can't even be mad at them. It worked. They just be lying, but it worked. Just lie. Just lie real hard. Keep the lie. Just keep it going. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to lie. It's like, I guess, like of all the different possible ways I could be enslaved. Just lies? Okay, I'll take just lies for 500. It's like, that's what I'm coming to learn. So I think that every world war we were told was both orchestrated for reasons against what we were told, and the conclusion is conclusions against what we were told. Meaning the way somebody went back when I was looking, when they were talking about that port, the longshoreman issue. One of the longshoremen was like, go look at the Treaty of 1812 from the War of 1812. It's like, the winners don't word it like that. Go look at the wording. And you go back and you look at it and you're like, holy smokes, they we totally lost that war. Like, they just lied to us. They just, no, we won. Yeah, America, the Allied forces and all that. They just be lying. They literally just be lying. And as it turns out, the they is a very small collection of families that aren't actually Jewish. Now, some of them are half Jewish, but the impulse behind what they do is not related to the Jewish corpus or the Hebrew Israel, Judah, Jacob backstory. It's completely separate, and it just got later propagandized infused with it. And a lot of people, both in Israel, in Palestine, and around the world, who do have bloodline connection back to that, they just don't know it, and they're under the punching bag of either side, depending on where they live. And they're the heir to the promise. This applies to certain Africans, certain Americans, certain Middle Easterners. It's like migration is a thing, y'all. And for as prolific as Polish Jews and Italian Jews and Ukrainian Jews and Hungarian Jews and Jewish Jews and Palestinian Jews, for all these subcategories to exist, y'all have to understand that that's just talking about Judah still. We're still just under Judah, the one son, Judah, not Reuben, not Simeon, not Levi, not Dan, not Naphtali, not Gad, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Manasseh, Ephraim, Benjamin, just Judah, all right? And we're still talking about this many subdivisions of Judah with these European connections. And again, nothing wrong with that. I'm not hating on that. I'm just saying that's just Judah, just according to what technically is Judah, not what's posing as Judah. And that's not even all of Israel, because Israel is 12 sons. Okay? So who the promise is to, who's treating Abraham's seed nicely and who isn't, is all being flipped and flopped and blah, 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 blah. What Zionism is or isn't, what Khazarian culture is or nationality is or isn't, what Bolshevism is or isn't, what communism is or isn't, what socialism is or isn't, capitalism, all these things, all of them are being hoodwinked, befuffled, carbuzzled, scramdoozled, schmam-schmoozled, bequazzled, queef-taffled, and I can't make up any more words, it's funky syllables. Just messed up, just really put in a blender and just swirled all around. And I think that that's on purpose. And it seems like maybe the banking grip, all the isms, it seems like maybe the banking grip is starting to loosen. And I don't think it's like, oh, we're heading into some Renaissance utopia. I just think the baton is switching hands, and the new hand is going to do some dirty work, just like the old hand, but they're going to point to the old hand and be like, look at how bad they were. Come to our benevolent utopia of biotechnology and all things metaverse. And I think that there is certain events that they know are coming, that they do not control, but that they want to maintain your trust and control through these events. And I think that they're more like global catastrophe type situations, not so much political or war stuff. But all that to say, the important thing is when you know what's going on, even a little bit more, you're not scared like that. Now, I'm scared for random things, but it's not because, oh my gosh, Iran might hit us with a nuclear weapon. Because if anything like that ever, quote unquote, pops off here, what it will probably be is a traditional bomb combined with some directed energy technologies to make it seem quite nuclear. But I think that a large part of the warfare strategy is about micro warfare, intra-body, intracellular, nano communication style warfare, and not about macro warfare. Not anymore. Why? Because it's much neater, much more tailored, much more dialed in. You can kill the guy right over there and not the guy right next to him. You can select, you can actually functionally foster natural selection, evolution, managed euthanasia, what they call eugenics, like functional eugenics. Somebody said, what a green screen. I'm sitting here inside of my little production pod for a series that I'm working on. And this series will be breaking down, I've talked about this before, kind of the psychological operation I see happening right now. But when I say we're in war, the war is full up. It's already scaled up. I just think that all these bombs and these rockets are not really the war front. It's their legacy war front, their legacy systems. Like we have a garage full of all these old firecrackers we never use. Well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buzz out all the firecrackers and we're gonna start popping them off everywhere so people think that that's the war. But over here, we're gonna take this knob and crank it and dial this in and get that going. And that's really the war. And we'll have everybody arguing about the firecrackers and who should have them in nuclear firecrackers or not nuclear firecrackers. And did Iran shoot first or who threw the firecracker first? Was it Israel? Well, why is Israel throwing firecrackers? They've always been throwing firecrackers ever since 1948. Well, that's what you say, but you just think for, from river to sea, we stand to be free. It's all this talking points and rhetoric about firecrackers and settlements and occupations and things. And yes, these are real issues, but I'm calling them legacy issues because they're not the primary war front that we're on right now. If they over here saying, no, you can't test your DNA, we are the chosen people. Just everybody stick this in your arm and give us another 6 months. Epigenetics is the key. Somebody say, right, epigenetics. So, yeah, I'm sitting here. That's really all I got for y'all today. Historically, I think it's just unprecedented for the president to be like, yeah, we dropped some bombs. Boop, 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 and send. Oh, Jack Dorsey can't take me down now. I mean, granted, he's gone, but that's never happening because I created my own social media account. Now, if Kim Jong-un did it or Putin did it, you would call that a dictator who must be stopped in silence. But when Donald Trump does it, I'm the bastion of freedom. Why? Because I pull out the chair for Netanyahu and I help facilitate and smooth over all the things that he wants to do to be free of y'all Palestinians in the way of his plans. That's what's going on, y'all. This dude is a magician. Like, he doesn't even talk eloquently. I'm looking at this speech. Today, a successful strike was launched for some nukes over 3 cities in Iran. 3 nuclear armament sites. It's like he's reading and he hadn't even rehearsed what he's reading. Like, how are you that bad, bro? It's your only job to sell it. You don't even sound like you wrote it. You just sound like somebody put that up on the screen and said, go. And they got a gun up your butthole behind the podium. And there's a whole shotgun coming from under the floor. And it's loaded. And it's through your pants leg. Nobody can see it because the camera's up here with it. And you talking like, I better not say the wrong word. I have no soul in how I'm talking. I am your president. It's just kind of like, go back to Twitter at this point, because it's like, I don't know what makes me more angry. Just seeing you tweet it or hearing you explain it by not actually saying anything. You're just reading words that you didn't even write. So I'm like, we laugh at Zelensky because he was on a TV show that played a president that like became president, but Donald Trump wasn't on a TV show that played a boss that became a boss. Like, it's the same thing. So I ain't got no hate or no love for this dude. I'm trying to tell y'all, it ain't what we're being told. I'll be back with, I guess, more on the updates as this war progresses. I can't help but assume a false flag will come. I've talked to some friends. One friend of mine thinks that there will be a false flag. It just won't be right away. And the point that they made was that every world war, every major war has been kicked off with the assassination of a head of state. And they talked about the first World War and the Second World War and all the different kind of semi-major ones in between, and that each time it was like somebody got shot or killed or something like that, bombed or something. And the projection or the presumption is that we're so far into bioterrorism, biosecurity land that they're going to try to do something like a biological attack or bioterrorist attack, where it's really like a cyber bio attack. That's not only war gamed in their kind of preparedness strategy thing, it also kind of just fits. It's like if I'm writing the movie and somebody says, Chris, we're on season 7, you need to come in and write episodes 4 and 5. I would start there, because I would go, clearly the medical assault scares people. And clearly nobody really knows what that was from a few years ago. We don't really talk about it. You don't really know what that was. We know that in order to get into the borders of the hexagram country, you had to be juiced up by one it was like literally owned by Pfizer. But nobody really knows what it was. We know what it wasn't. It wasn't just benign messenger RNA. But nobody really knows what it was. And I just get this impression that what it actually was a function. It wasn't a bioweapon at all. It was an operating system, just like the Moderna CEO said. Like, that's the thing I think that's what the conspiracy and the truth community don't really do that well, is listen at what the haters and what the evil ones are actually saying. Everything's got to mean something different. Sometimes it don't. This dude said, we just think of it like an operating system. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he meant. So just like you have iOS 17 on your phone, or iPad OS 15 or whatever, might have Windows, whatever the latest, think of it like an operating system, a platform by which third-party developers can come and have access to your terminal, in and out, APIs, protocols, standardized things to allow for all kinds of unique functions and apps and products and installs to be directly compatible with your central nervous system and musculature. Oh yeah, we love it. What was the HHS secretary's new announcement? Make American biotech advanced. Y'all could have just left that one off. We don't need another acronym. It's fine. MAHA's, I don't say it, but y'all could just keep that one. That was corny enough. But really, MABA. Who you think out here gonna be wearing a MABA hat? Nobody. Make American biotech advanced. Like, what? You said we over here talking about food, diets, and safe and effective, and now you over here talking about biotech? Like, come on, bro. This is why I'm trying to tell you, it's none of these people's decision. Their job is to sell it and bring it forth. They either know this before they get in the job, or they FAFO. F around and find out. But they own the job. You don't just get to be honest, you get to do what we say. We being, maybe I'll call them the deep state, the bankers at clearance levels behind and beyond what you ever heard of, that answer to the hexagram and the family's wishes. And that goes for lots of countries, not just America. But America is really the hexagram. We are not, yeah, nobody Maba, right? Every awake mom, Maha, exactly. The whole leadership is corrupt, right? They're not leading, or they are leading. They're just leading you into a different direction. So that's what I want people to take away from this convo. Nothing about the American government really in its since 1933 form is broken. Nothing about it. Its goals are different from your goals. I live in Carolina, and even though I went to NC State, and nobody really talks about them as it relates to the Tar Heels versus the Blue Devils. If Duke is playing basketball in Carolina, the Tar Heels are playing basketball, and Duke has a goal of winning the game, and they're at Carolina. Or let's just say they're at Duke, but Carolina's winning. Carolina's actually up. This isn't going according to plan. This is rigged. No, Carolina's doing exactly, the Tar Heels are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, trying to win. Duke is doing what they're supposed to be doing, trying to win. So in this contest, we get it in a sports metaphor. I just don't think people understand we were already sold out. Biden didn't sell us out. Obama didn't sell us out. Clinton didn't sell us out. Bush didn't sell us out. Reagan didn't sell us out. Okay? Nixon didn't sell us out. Truman didn't sell us out. Like none of these actual recent Ford, Gerald Ford, any of them, none of them sold us out. This was 100+ years ago. Okay? 100+ years ago. None of these Democratic or Republican conservative politicians did anything other than playing the bottom bitch in a broken ideology called the American dream, where lies are how you further your economy. Usury is how you further the economy, not innovation and good stewardship. That's the only thing. They just lied about the fact that they were in an SNL sketch, not in a real film. They're in a parody of a story, not a real story. So, yeah, take it like that. Don't, I be yelling about Trump and presidents, but I'm only doing that because his name and his likeness and everything is in the national conversation right now. I wasn't yelling about Biden so much at the time, but the point is, the less you really think these presidents can actually control, the better your decision making will be, because it will be more accurate with what's going on. Look at the iconography they show you when you see the American flag and the Canadian flag and the Australian flag and the Union Jack and the British flag. That's not the Union Jack, the other British, Great Britain flag, or the United Kingdom flag. You'll find that they often / always have golden fringes. That simply represents it's a subtle but very clear way of representing, in this room, the Oval Office, the White House, the State of the Union podium, wherever you see it. In this room, we are under this nation with the fringes is under admiralty jurisdiction. This nation without the fringes is at least a jurisdiction or two higher. Meaning the non-fringed hexagram is the actual owners of the corporate system. Period. There is no arguing that. You don't, like, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that's what their flags are saying. That's what they say in their actual, like, what they show in their iconography. Most people just don't know how to see that or interpret what they're being shown. I'm here to help you interpret that. That also means that when the guy who says Iran might have nukes for 30 years, they didn't just all of a sudden get some good intel when their intel for the last 30 years has been bad on Iran's nuclear situation. That's called, we have this script called nukes that we're going to pull out the vault when it's time to play that play. I got a handful of cards, and this is one of my cards, like draw four, reverse, Uno, or wild card or whatever the thing is. One of the cards is the Iran card. And whenever it was time to play that card, because of other issues happening behind the scenes, that card gets played. When that card is played, everybody on TV justifies it or figures out some way to make sense of it. We have all kinds of conversations of nuclear warheads and this, and the whole nuclear thing is all over here. It's all part of the news cycle meant to keep you off the sniff of what's really happening, which is really just a financial transition that has some biometric tie-ins. And while, the health secretary is like, make American biotech advance, the president's like, and like, that's supposed to somehow be related. And ironically, it is. That's the thing. It is related. It's just they acting like it's not, but it is. And so I just think that we're in this, what's happening behind the scenes. I mentioned it earlier, Ari, but I'll repeat it just for anybody who might have just joined. So what's happening, the question is, what is happening behind the scenes to cause the card draw? What's happening is that there is a bank. And this is something that I was told just yesterday. by somebody who's a lot more informed than I am. And they essentially were like, this has nothing to do with nukes, right? And I say, well, I knew that much, but what do you know? And they said, well, it's been hemming and hawing on the heels now for months of the imminent transfer of power from one particular banking family that's a hexagram family away from that family. And certain deaths and executions would go along with it. Now, is that related to what Trump was tweeting about Biden's execution? I think maybe, but indirectly, not directly. I just think that behind the scenes, there really is like levels of justice and levels of espionage happening way bigger than what the public is seeing. The public is just given the days of our lives, General Hospital version. What's palatable? They don't know nothing about weapons of microwave and all this sound. We just gonna tell them nukes. We got the nuke story cooked and it's been baking for 50 years. We're gonna go with the nuke story again. It's just because it's the simple way to just say, hey, you guys are going to see some scuffle, and here's a reason that y'all can chew on as to why. We won't ever get to whether they have them or not, what that looks like. The fact that literally nobody except for America basically once/twice has used them ever. But here we are 50 years later still talking about it. And people have been living in those cities where those nukes were used this whole time. But don't pay too much attention to all that because we need y'all to stay over here with it. Because what's going on over here is the fact that we're losing our banking dynasty. I think we know some of them. When people talk about Rothschild, I need y'all to understand that that's just one last name. And there are many people in those bloodlines that don't carry that last name. And some of that we know, like some of that, like the Warburg or some of certain other banking families are publicly connected to the Rothschilds. Then there are the boards of directors and the councils that sit anonymously behind those banks. And that's who I really think makes decisions. I just don't know who those people are. I don't think anybody does. I don't even think the people at certain intermediate structures of these central banks know who these decisions are. All they know is the council has voted. The council. Nobody knows which council, it's just the council. And you'll learn pretty quick. You don't ask too many questions. Oh, excuse me. Hi, I'm new here. What council has voted? That'll be the last time they hear from you at the bank. So when somebody asks, what does that mean, losing a banking system? Okay, so maybe I can show the biopsy on here. I've got it on here, and let's see. Oh, Lord, finding it. I'll see if I can show this graphic. So I'm working on this project. This could go very wrong in terms of being just kind of all off of, oh, okay. Oh, ooh. It scales me up, but not the graphic. Okay, that's weird. Okay, so anyway, this is the graphic that I'm working on this big presentation for. And, okay, it doesn't actually do any good if you can't really see it. Does anybody know how this is the most, I can't use the R word, but this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I can scale my face up so I can see my boogers, but y'all can't see what's on the screen. Okay, in the middle of that whole chart, it says banking. In fact, I'll do it like this. I'll pull it up here so that y'all can actually see it. Stop sharing. Okay. So this thing right here. Now I'm gonna hold it in such a way where you can actually read what's on the screen. All right. If you can see, let's see how close I can get it. If you can see the middle here, see how it says currency, business, industry, market share. And it's got this whole map of these 8 different industries: pharma, food, education, entertainment, technology, politics, history, and religion. In the middle, this banking, the word currency is going to flip in and then out and back and forth between the word banking. And the point is that banking is what funds all of this. So when a new banking family switches out of the middle, that means the middle advisory board switches out. And so all of the implementation of all of these systems and everything that's further out on the fringes of this map, and this is the section of the map that you see, me talking about, banging into my microphone, talking about the 1871 and 1933, this whole section here. Trust me, y'all are gonna see this proper. I'm just trying to do it all in stride. But under the history section, you see how these securities and bondages, securities are tying the human soul to this financial system, insurance. The opposite of a bond, or how you cash a bond in is you redeem a bond. So the concept of bondage, the inversion of that is redemption. This merchant law that's been forged and inverted from divine law, which oversees natural law, which oversees common law, which oversees equity and trust law right here, which oversees admiralty law, which oversees maritime law. So these two important dates here have really set the stage under the historical section. Oh, thanks, babe. My wife bought the iPad. Bring it all in. She's like, I see you over there struggling, baby. I'm gonna hook you up. All the colors in the studio is all broken down because I'm actually still recording some of the stuff, thank you, for that that series. It's much easier to do on the iPad. And it's also much easier to do in the app that I built it in, because then you can zoom and scale and see all my fingerprints. It's great. So, boom, boom, boom. So when you look at this middle, let me turn my layers back right so y'all can see how this is really supposed to look. Banking, and then we turn off currency, boom, and narrative, boom. Okay, so in the middle of this whole chart is this banking layer. You see it? It's a banking. That's because through industry, various businesses, some of which I list, not all, and the job market, these actual things get done in real life, IRL, these technologies. And these technologies are there, buffer there. These technologies are there to help ensure the control. Now again, when you in the middle and you own a bank, you don't need more money. Money, 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 money. Money. That's not what you after. I don't know what they want from me. It's like the more money we come across, the more problems we see. Right? No Diddy, by the way. I gotta say that after every Diddy Biggie reference. But it's not about more money. It's not about that. It's about control and who gets to go live with this whole endeavor. Okay? Now y'all might just be looking like, Chris, I can't see what that is. It's too small. It's too much glare on the screen. It's too many words. And you're kind of right. It is a lot. But the point is, let me see if I know what I can do. I can simply go and open this one and flip. I can invert the photo. Duh, that's like clearly the easiest way to do it. And then everybody can see what's what. Take the photo, I can click edit, I can click crop, and then I can flip the inversion. Boom. Now, all the words are straight. Okay, now you can actually read it. So, in the middle of this chart right here, this is kind of an awkward thing to do because of the glare, but I'm determined to make this work. Okay, so this is my map. Yes, I did the drawing. Jen, I could flip the camera, but it's kind of harder to do it. Yes, I did the drawing. I drew this all by hand on this actual iPad before my Apple Pencil broke. And what I'm trying to show here is that these series of technologies, and yes, you'll see, where is it? Palantir made the cut. And I drew this before all the Palantir drama, all right? These technologies under these private sector contracts, through these certain technologies, are moving the internet as we know it onto this new cyber-physical backbone. That is the human aura being the connection layer and the human red blood cell / mitochondria being the processor. That is right. You are the node on the system. How are they doing that? Through this concept that they refer to as the Internet of Bodies, which also coalesces with the Internet of Things, which also coalesces with the Internet of Medical Things, the ubiquitous systems that essentially connect all the smart devices together. But they're doing it so that they can manage your digital twin. And that digital twin can biogenetically suggest things to you. And propaganda becomes way simpler because they just hit a button in a computer somewhere underground that hits a signal that sends a thing to an antenna that takes it above ground, and boom, you feel it in your subconscious and you didn't even know it. And birth as you are, yes. So the boink, boink, boink was just a component of the puzzle? Absolutely. Now, it's an important component of the puzzle because if you look at this other side of the map here, oh, it's upside down. Let me lock my rotation really quick and then show that part to you. If you look at the other side of the thing, which is the pharma side of the map, this biological experiments disguised as, and can't say those words or you'll get canceled by the medical mafia / the entertainment side of this apparatus that is the same banking. It's this allopathy or bust conversation where it's our way or the highway. You can't think about how your body works in any other way because we don't want you to know that there's a lot of electromagnetic information going on around you. And that's actually what you perceive as the shedding or viral contagion phenomenon. It's really just your body's bioelectric communication system doing what it always is never meant to do. We just didn't tell you that that exists because we were too busy connecting it to the cloud. So this entire human cyber bio conversation is really about finding functional ways through food and medicine and drugs to fuse different analytes, different peptides, different amino acids into unique molecular structures that carry unique megahertz, terahertz, gigahertz, and kilohertz signatures that allow for what are called quantum key distributions. This is what COVID brought us, this whole medical body area network conversation. That is part of the, swoop to this side of the map, internet. This is like fun for me because it's like, I'm still working this in real time, how I'm presenting this. Internet of bodies, there it is. The Internet of bio nano things also coalesces with that. So if you notice that this map between this tech section where this line here separates the two, tech over here, this is the entertainment section over here. This little go-between is where your metaverse and this whole idea of convenience and Google glasses and Meta Ray-Bans and all that stuff starts to creep, where fashion and entertainment are coalescing now beyond just your Apple Watch or your Fitbit. Now, of course, if we go over here in the government section, we have this play-to-play politics where lobbyists give handshakes of butt buddies in DC end up doing favors and IOUs from being groomed to being nepotized or bribed into the jobs, where that leads to this kind of obfuscation layer. Peter Thiel might have given J.D. Vance some money, but we don't know how much, and we don't know exactly what for, and we don't know if he only gave JD 15 million so he can talk about it, but then he put 150 million in a holdings company so that his LLC and his trust can activate things on the back end. The NGO can move things to the other holdings company so that the Platinum Equity Group can take the asset management trust. You see what I'm saying? This is how this actually goes. So when you follow the money, you see the holdings companies, the multinational corporations that all somehow just have this funding and this ubiquitous service for these telecom companies that are really applying the physical machines in those like towers. And like when you take that little plastic shell off, what you're seeing on the inside are technologies from these companies. Why? What are they doing? Using all kinds of stuff from 3G, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, VHF, free space optical, radar, sonar, microwave, infrared, scalar waves, quintons, heptons, you get it? 6G, radionics, photonics, psychotronics, psionics, all kinds of phonics you never heard about. Hooked on phonics didn't work for you. All you know is phonics. You don't know about psi-phonics. You don't know radiophonics. You don't know nothing about that. You just know phonics. Mavis Beacon and the other lady, the other black lady, to her phonics. That's all y'all know. So as we go around, and I guess I'll finish this map out because what's the point of looking at part of it without looking at the rest? The educational sector. This is a Rockefeller redesign of education that published all schools, books, and government. All these standardized testing that teaches you all about your five senses. Not really, nothing really, but that they exist. But it keeps this sixth sense redacted. Now, why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because they're using that sixth sense as a functional form of the new human interconnected global information Department of Defense information network, the DODIN. Called the DODIN. Now, I didn't make that acronym up. They did. The Department of Defense Information Network used to be called the Global Information Network. Is it still global? Probably. It's probably all over the world. That's why I don't think this has anything to do with nukes. Because what's worse? A country maybe having nukes for 30 years, maybe, or not. Or an actual Department of Defense having the very buttons into the intracellular terahertz scalable phase acuity of your actual mitochondria. See what I'm saying? One is an actual thing. I can go straight to .gov websites and show you the existence of one. The other is just rhetoric about a historical event. Anyway, so under this education sector, that's really setting up, I think the other one I didn't go over was the food section. This food section is really just about total mineral depletion. This idea that everything about your body in the way that it naturally absorbs food has been eked out of the conversation. There's the EPA under the government side has made it gosh darn sure that through the practices of these private corporations that are going unchecked and the clandestine attempts at destroying crops and harvests and things like that, that you definitely ain't got no health coming your way. Now they got health. Make American biotech advance. Let's just find out why the honeybees are dying first. Can we do that? Can we just get the food? Can we get the poison out? Can we get ketchup in America like ketchup is in England? Then we can talk about making American biotech advanced. See how ridiculous it sounds? Make American biotech advanced. That's why I think it's an AI running this, because a human would have been like, Cornball 3000. No, thank you. Come up with a different slogan. Pitch me some ideas. I got one. Meba. People said MAGA, and they said Maha. Let's say Maba. Maba. Make American biotech advanced. Literally, nobody wants to do that at all. So, what up, Glenn? So what I'm doing is I'm explaining to everybody this little chart and map that I drew that I will be releasing this bigger series on. It's very much for me a cathartic thing to kind of draw this. I've shown plenty of people. The series is, I'm still in the middle of editing and doing the effects for it. I'm sitting over what won't be green, but it'll just be a blacked out environment. But this is where I actually recorded it right in here. But the point is, that this system in the middle, this is banking. Okay, it's a currency because I have this particular version of it pulled up. But it's all flowing, right? It's the electricity, the current of the sea. You see, it's the currency. Electricity is like current. See, it's currency. It's got to be flowing to actually be going anywhere, to be doing anything. Sitting in your pocket or your wallet, it ain't cutting it. So all of this map is, again, I'm calling this the biopsy of a psyop. See? And the point of this is to be a slice, just a biopsy, right? You just took a slice of an artery. In the middle of that, what's funding it is money. So when I tell you that this war is about banking and who gets to move the muscle forward globally, we already went from like a pretty pervasively homogenous West. But now we're talking about the East too, the East and the West. They playing for pinks, for titles, for throat, for blood. So, birth as you are, by the way, DM Jennifer, Swedish Love. She'll talk to you plenty about that stuff. Birth certificate and all. But, yeah, so with this map, what this is trying to show here, and this will be available for everybody to download, is that these ubiquitous systems that are really being socially engineered for thought control, this whole kind of concept of the media, right? This big six, this Comcast, NBC, Universal, News Corp, Fox Corp, Murdoch Corp, Disney, ABC, Viacom thing. This is all just like 7 people. They are all in the same families of the very people that sit on these banking structures. They're all in the same families of the very people that run these companies, or I should say these agencies that oversee these protocols that run into these legislative bodies that basically turn this into law so that these technologies and these companies can execute what, these players in the government track are allowed to bring forth for the control of the people in the middle. And that is a little sneak preview of the biopsy of a psyopsy. So yes, it's a psychological operation. Yes, it's being orchestrated. Yeah, it is a bit scary. I just think knowledge is power, y'all. I just think the more you know, the less, it's like you don't have all the answers, but it all seems a bit par for the course. It's like, okay, all right, we just completely out of protocol, bombed an entire nation, and nobody said they were cool with that, and the president tweeted it from his toilet. All right, that's where we are. Litmus tests activated. Mile marker noted. Okay, we're there in the script. I don't know where this is headed. I just know I don't trust our leaders. I don't. And I think a lot of y'all don't either. So I'm happy to help synthesize and dilute and break down some of the more complex things. What I'm hoping to release with this map is a little like detail. Hey, if you want to know more about these, click here type situation. Most of this, and yes, I will save this live. And most of this is convos that I didn't really care to have. Like to have them all separately is for people to miss how they all connect. That's why I drew the map like this. Because if you learn any of the details, like let's say you go into the food and ag section and you know all about, it's like really tough to hold this thing backwards and at a downward angle to not get the glare. Okay, you know all about big agriculture and this seed oil, organic versus GMO, because if you ask me, the GMO conversation is really about different vectors, vehicles, approaches, attempts at getting your body to have these biosensors and biomarkers and bioidentifiers in them. Will it work in the boink, boink, boinks? Sure. In some ways more effectively, in some ways less. Does it work by broad dissemination through certain modified vegetables and foods? Totally. Yes, I will be saving this, and yes, I will be putting this on YouTube so that anybody who wants to watch or share can. And thank you guys for your time. But the point, I guess what I'm trying to wrap up with this little section of the map here is that this marketing, the fact that, where are we? I forget which section. Okay, that's the farmer section, right. So it's no coincidence that it's the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. It's a one housing body that controls the decisions of what at least Americans eat. And I do believe America is this experiment state. So what works as far as the biodigital convergence here gets implemented worldwide without much need for R&D. Because America is like everybody's genetics are in a giant $330 million person clinical trial. America literally is the melting pot of everybody around the world. America's backstory is mostly one of immigration. That's why I think it's such a farce that people are so up in arms about immigration now. It's like, hello, this whole country is literally a product of immigration. It wasn't legal at the time. You just showed up and kicked all them Indians off and said, here's some syphilis, get out. So like, why y'all bitching now? Like, keep that same energy or whatever. I take this tone mostly because I see it as a flippant issue. It's not a real issue. They want to stop people from coming in from out. They stop them, period. They don't want to stop that. They want to pretend like that's an issue while they secretly open the door and let them in, bust them to the edge border and put the camera so you can see it. That's what's going on. Oh, sleeper cells, Iranian sleeper cells. Yeah, there are sleeper cells that exist, but do you think they snuck in? No. They had military convoys escort them on military planes. Half of your uncles, brothers, and cousins probably flew them. They just couldn't talk about it because it was a classified mission. But this is a NORCOM, SOUTCOM, AFRICOM, like military coordinated move of things and compartmentalizations and need to know and clearance levels, and the Army's over here, Navy's over there, Air Force over here, DARPA, DARTA, ARPA H, all these new subdivisions of the R&D that all these different divisions of the government have been using to test ideas and warfare strategies out this whole time. It's a whole lot more going on than what I'm telling y'all. I'm only here to tell you that what they saying on TV is just some TV. It's just some TV. It's just a story for your butt cheeks. Don't need to believe it, cause they're lying. Oh yeah, they are. Just like they do just about every time. So I'll park the analogy, but suffice it to say, this little shop will be coming out pretty, map will be coming out pretty soon, along with a little micro documentary that explains in detail each section. And I'm building it all in 4K. You can zoom in way close and really get to the nitty gritty of what actually is in each one of these sections and what this means and kind of why I wrote it like I did. So with that, y'all, I hope y'all doing great. Oh wait, I see a couple questions. Hold on. Is there a way to limit or reduce the biofield interacting with their technology? I know Sabrina says you would have to disconnect the DNA itself, but is there any way to feel and be better? So yeah, and according to Sabrina, maybe people are familiar with who this person is referencing, someone named Sabrina Wallace. She does a lot of discussion on the biofield and the use of the biofield in warfare and in human augmentation and in the Internet of Bodies. I think what it is like learning how to feel it. It's like learning, like, okay, I hear this ring in my ear, or I feel this air pressure or something that affects the physiological state of my body. And when I feel the signal coming, I can change my position, my tune, my mood through music or through meditation or through some other practice. And my attitude with verbal intention, as well as like some electromagnetic mitigation. And I think that this is how you start to decouple yourself from the shield. You see what I'm saying? It's not just a button or get this thing from this website and it works. It's designed to have 15 redundancies so that it never disconnects you. Reducing half of those redundancies by not getting a smart this or a smart that in your home, that's how you do it. That's one way to do it. The meter, the smart meter, turning your Wi-Fi. These are ways to just start to reduce the conversation. Now, they don't need your Wi-Fi to do what they do, but again, it's like multiple systems affecting you. So the point is the idea I think is to become sensitive enough to not be affected by their stuff. To become sensitive enough to know when their stuff is hitting you so that you can change your position or your immediate surroundings. She talks a lot about biofield concurrence and the idea of being able to shield yourself like electromagnetically by I'm like closing my eyes and like lifting my shoulder blades as if that's like traps, as if I'm doing anything, but I'm in my head. What I see out of my body is like a pulse of energy or so emanating outward about 30 feet to shield me. Now, I'm no expert in this, but I do believe that there are defense strategies, so to speak. And now my chat is stuck, so it's not going down any further. Well, in that case, I can't see any more questions, but I saw somebody had asked another good question and I can't get back to it. So in my chat, this happens every time. Whatever, I've been talking long enough. Y'all get what I'm saying. We're gonna be back with more and more details, but suffice it to say, the thing with Iran is not what it's being presented. There is no reality that seems normal where you just like bomb a country that's not at war with you and then just tweet about it. I think like the other thing that I thought that was you're supposed to do in war is that you're supposed to have a little bit of like, surprise, like the element of surprise, like how they just make one move and then start talking about it on TV. Like I always thought it was a bit weird. If I'm at war, you're probably just not gonna hear from me. And if I do address my country, I'm gonna say stuff like, country, don't worry, your leadership is strong, we're making sound decisions. I'm looking out for you. I'll update you more when it's peaceful. I'm not gonna be like, today, this is what I did. It just seems like everybody watches TV, don't you think? Iran is watching these same press conferences. That you hit them with you blast them with a bomb, and then they got to watch you on Twitter talk about it. Truth Social talk about it. Like, is that even? But no, it's not right. And the whole point is that they're doing that because it works. Because it doesn't matter that he just tweeted about it. It matters that y'all talk about it. Y'all don't even talk about how the news got to you. You're just talking about the news. No retaliation from Iran yet. But that's the whole point. They do these self-sabotage attacks. They, being the hexagram and the banks that manage them, do these self-sabotage attacks all the time to justify future aggression. It's like deception 101 at this point. So if Iran is to retaliate, that's been in the script. And if that does happen, it might be in Israel, it might be in America, it might be an American bases around the world. I don't know. American lives most likely will suffer from it. But this is what happens when you are propagandized and you don't learn the truth. History repeats itself when those people going through life fail to understand it. They lied to us about all the wars, all of them. So history is going to repeat itself. People are going to sign up and die in this war and fight under presumably noble causes that are complete farces. And all you can do is point them up to a documentary or to a book somewhere and say, you go sit down and start reading, bro, because otherwise all this death to the commies and we need to get them and America first is going to get you straight up killed. That's all I know how to say, y'all. That's all I know how to say. So, with that said, I hope y'all have a great rest of the weekend. I'm not here to scare. Please, if this made you fearful, take a second, walk outside, turn your phone off, turn your computer, turn your TV off. Inhale. Hopefully nobody farted nearby or there's no chemtrails or skunks or cow production facilities, processing facilities nearby. Just inhale. You're still here. You're still there. Touch on your face, squeeze on your butt cheeks. Doink, doink. Doink, doink, give him a good squeeze. Make sure you're still there. Any thoughts on how to keep our 18-year-olds out of it? Yeah, I think your 18-year-old, once they know the truth, their 18-year-olds ain't dumb. Once they actually understand, I would go show them all the testimony of former soldiers, like that one guy who went viral recently, I killed these guys, but now I'm sitting there I realized I went to war for these bankers and they were lying to me. It's an American veteran saying he lives with the grief of wondering if the guy that he killed was funny or would have gotten along, or he's like, I met this guy and he goes to reach for a gun and I end up shooting him, and then I thought, well, why did I gotta shoot this guy? He reached for a gun. Well, why did he reach for a gun? Well, I'm in his bedroom at 2 a.m. Who wouldn't have reached for the gun? All y'all, if you was on the other side, you definitely would have done it. So at this point, any support of that ideal would be tantamount to supporting an Iranian coming in your house, shooting you or your loved one in the bed while they're asleep, because that's the same scenario happening. Only this time, your government actually did hit a bomb for them. This soldier was just killing people under an actual lie. The fact that nobody actually had no weapons of mass destruction. So what I think is, I just have a hard time believing they'll ever pull off a draft. I don't think they want to do a draft because I think that it would create a bigger mess than they want. And they seem to want Americans just docile and paying no attention to it. And I think that to pull off a draft, you really need national support. And part of a separate psyop that they're running is to remove nationalism and national support. So I don't really see a draft necessarily, like a conventional draft coming up. What I do see is a very heavy propaganda campaign. And the idea that they just blow up some redneck Arkansas, Mississippi neighborhood and the black Mississippi neighborhood next to it, and then they blame it on Iran, and they get those people in Mississippi pissed off enough to sign up by the tens of thousands to enlist. See what I'm saying? So it's like a localized draft based on instigation. But ain't nobody who's way several miles away from the blast zone unaffected gonna go to no war on what we pretty sure is gonna get ironed out of the news cycle 2 weeks later. With that said, y'all, go in peace. I'm not here to fearmonger, but I am here to say, hey, y'all, I did not see it twisting like this, but I know for a fact that it don't have nothing to do with what they're saying on TV. And if you can understand that, then we can keep having that conversation, y'all, because it's 2025 and the world's getting weird. And that's all I know I'm going to do with a beard. And that's all I know on this live stream here. And that's right, y'all. I'll see you next time. Cheers. That's right. I didn't mean to rhyme. I can't help it. I have a good time. Y'all have a good night or good evening. And we'll catch you guys again soon. Thank you for everybody who's watching. Yes, I will save this. And yes, I will be posting this on my YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey channels so that people who want to know can know. All right. That's it for tonight. Y'all have a good night.